And we're hearing from people all over the world, Ukraine, UK, US, Canada, Sweden, Finland. Please forgive me if I'm forgetting.
All over the place.
Germany, who have said, we're suffering. We have it. It's a worldwide crisis.
Yeah,
So
kind of subconsciously, it was just sort of like feeling not good a lot of the time mentally. When I took a year in college, it began to get really bad, where I was having serious issues with how I viewed myself, how I viewed the world around me, my thoughts of self-worth, and it got to a point where I didn't see a way out. So I woke up at 3 a.m. one night having what my therapist would later say was a full-blown panic attack. And I was struggling with thoughts about whether I would want to go on or not.
Because mental health, what I've learned through your journey, you have triggers.
Right.
There are certain situations that will happen, that have happened, that a lot of people would say, oh gosh, just get over it, it's whatever.
Yeah.
But for someone with a mental health journey, please, if anybody is out there listening and you have somebody in your life that suffers, understand what I'm saying.
People with depression is that it's something we don't need you to necessarily be thinking of how to solve all of our problems or how to fix everything that's going wrong. We just need to be heard and understood. So that, I think, is the most important thing, is to just be understanding above all else.
All right, welcome everybody. We are back again.
Hey
I wish I could say I don't even know what episode this is.
God.
We used to say season 2, episode 3.
It was a lot easier when it was just episode 3, 4, 5.
Now I'm like, we're back. That's all I've got for you.
We're somewhere in the double digits.
We're back
You guys can figure it out. It'll be on the playlist. Whatever video number this is, that's the episode.
Yeah. Go to the channel description and figure out where we are.
Yeah.
We are back again, kid. I guess we're doing like this other just talking.
Yes.
Last week was a success. I loved kind of going back to the basics with you. Where we're back to what we were doing in season 1.
Right,
in the studio,
exactly, yeah.
talking and just enjoying each other's companies. And of course, we solve all the world's problems in the 30, 35 minutes.
Oh, of course.
We're here.
Of course, yeah.
Just like my drive into work every day, those 112 kilometers each way.
Oh, yeah.
World peace is coming very soon, kid. Very soon.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, world peace if you subscribe to this channel.
Yeah, we're bringing it. We're bringing it. Exactly.
Yeah. But we did talk about it last week. Just to quickly bring people back up to speed. We are going back to this talking format. We were doing the games for a while. We liked it. We still like it.
It was fun.
We're going to keep doing it. But we both realized that we missed just having these regular chats. So for a few episodes at least, we're just going to be back in our old home, our old podcast studio, just shooting the breeze and talking about things with each other.
Exactly. But you know what, though, as well, kiddo, because we do so many lives as well, our community is building, my goodness, every single day. We call them our crazy lifers. I don't know if they call themselves that, but you know, they kind of said, we want to hear more about A, B, and C, and D. And our community, because they're with us when we go live, they're able to comment. Thank you so much. We're so, so grateful. They're seeing the really close relationship and the dynamic between the two of us. And on our lives, sometimes we don't even agree.
No.
Sometimes I'm like, what'd you just say? And I'm sure you do with me too. But I don't know if you want me to kind of delve into this. At the end of our last episode, we kind of sort of did a little what we were thinking, what this podcast, this episode would look like. And I know that you really did want to address the mental health journey that you've had. A lot of our viewers have not gone back to season 1 and watched that episode. Please do. I feel like it's episode 3 or 4, if I'm not mistaken.
Might be 4, yeah.
Might be 4. But we are kind of leading into that time of year where people do get affected.
Yes.
And I need to address something right now because we are actually live as well.
Yeah.
So I feel so super guilty that I'm looking at you and I'm not kind of, hey, everybody,
Hey.
on our live right now that we can't see any comments. But do you still feel comfortable talking about what the last few months have been like for you mentally?
Yeah, absolutely.
After sharing what you did?
Honestly, my idea to talk about this sort of came from one of our more recent lives where we were just talking about things, chatting with people in chat like we usually do. And someone, I don't remember who, was saying like, God, I just can't wait for this year to be over. And we sort of like got into a talk about how like, yeah, just something about this year has just been like, just off. Yeah, just off, not great. Kind of can't wait for it to be over with. And that sort of got me thinking exactly like you said, we are getting to the end of the year where a lot of people honestly are struggling with mental health because come Christmas time, you may not have known this, but around Christmas is when you hear about like the worst cases of depression. Like it's the magical time of the year, but it brings out those feelings of loneliness that some people are going through, some of their struggles, and a lot of people have trouble dealing with it. So I thought,
okay,
we did the episode where we talked about my mental health journey. I was very, very proud of that episode.
Me too.
But why don't we do sort of like a follow-up, not even specifically about me, but just about, you know, the ways mental health can affect us and how we can help each other through it, because we're getting to that time of the year where a lot of people, whether you know it or not, are gonna need help.
Well, they do. You know, there is worldwide, and the reason I'm always going to throw it back to our lives, because right now we're using YouTube as a format, as a platform.
Yes.
And we're hearing from people all over the world, Ukraine, UK, US, Canada, Sweden, Finland. Please forgive me if I'm forgetting.
All over the place.
Germany, who have said, we're suffering. We have it. It's a worldwide crisis.
Yeah.
So for those that are new, because no matter what we start talking about this, kid, people are going to be new and watching this for the first time.
Yeah.
So I do think that it's important very briefly to recap how your journey started.
Yes.
But yes, it is a time of year. And on the last episode, what we know about mental health and the journey when we get into the Christmas holiday season is there are people that are alone, that don't have families. This becomes a very difficult and a very lonely time of year for them, which affects their mental health. Christmas, sadly, is very commercialized. It is a very materialistic season. It's based on buying power, which, I mean, we can get into all of that, I suppose. Does it lose the theme of the religious point? I think it is.
That is a whole discussion.
But for those that are unable to buy what they feel is worthy, it becomes a very difficult season, right?
It is, yeah.
So do you really want, let's help the audience know how your journey started. Please go back in detail as well to our subscribers and our viewers right now and watch the episode. But it did stem with you having a series of mental health journey where it was becoming harder and harder and harder for you, where one night And we do have to watch our words because it will put us in a different algorithm where one night everything came to a standstill for you mentally. In the middle of the night, you made a decision that it would be better for you to not go on any longer.
Right. So, sort of to give a brief recap, if you want to hear more detail about this, like I said, we do have the episode where I talk a lot more about it, but just so everyone's up to speed, so you understand my frame of mind when we talk about mental health, around high school, I was beginning to struggle with my mental health, kind of subconsciously. It was just sort of like feeling not good a lot of the time mentally. When I took a year in college, it began to get really bad, where I was having serious issues with how I viewed myself, how I viewed the world around me, my thoughts of self-worth, and it got to a point where I didn't see a way out. So I woke up at 3 a.m. one night having what my therapist would later say was a full-blown panic attack. And I was struggling with thoughts about whether I would want to go on or not. And obviously, from the fact that you're watching this episode, I realized that, okay, I've been ignoring this for too long. I need help. So then I went to you and I said, here's these thoughts I've been having. Something's wrong with me. I think I have depression. These are the thoughts I'm having. I need help.
I think I want to interject for a second because you're eliminating a couple of things, but I know it's for the point of very quickly summarizing.
Yeah.
You had the pills in your hand and you were about to do everything you could to end it.
Yeah.
Then you had a moment of, I can't do this to my family. I'm going to go wake up my mom, which is a moment that I will never forget. You immediately, literally barged through my door, woke me up and said, I'm about to do this. So from that moment on, you and I did everything we could to get you the therapy that you needed to be able to put everything back together again.
Yeah, I was in therapy for about a year, roughly.
It was very close to a year.
Yeah,
very
around
close.
a year.
Yes.
I was, obviously, I sort of like, I guess for lack of a better term, sort of renewed my connections with you, my family, my friends, sort of everyone, just sort of pushed myself to be more out there. I began making more friends, a lot of whom I'm still friends with to this day.
Yeah.
I sort of like, it became a real effort to try and put my headspace in a better position. I got my first job, which I would work for many, many years, stories of which you will have heard on this podcast.
Yeah.
But
I think, though, first of all, you learned through your therapy that this was not a curable thing. As your mother, I also went to therapy to learn how to help you because I'd never had a child that felt that life wasn't worth living. So it really was such a personal effort for you. What I want to highlight, though, is you did discover that you were diagnosed with social anxiety, which was new. It made sense after your therapist spending that time with you going, wait a minute, you have this.
You hear those words and then you hear the explanation, then you think back to your entire life up until that point and you're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. And
that tracks.
But what we've noticed, so this was 10 years ago. Again, if you watch that episode, you'll see it's the first time that we've actually talked about it. Minute by minute, you'll see Austin almost break down. I break down for sure discussing it with you. It was not easy. But what we know over the last 10 years is once you have those thoughts, they can so easily come back again.
Right.
It's almost like they sneak back up and go, I'm still here.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the one thing I learned from the mental health program that I joined as a parent with a child that suffers, that this is not curable.
Right.
You've got to constantly be recharging your battery with your mental health.
Yeah.
And you have had times where maybe you didn't feel that way as defined.
I've never felt that way again.
Yeah.
But I've had bad days.
But you've had moments.
Yeah.
In a series. So I know that the podcast has actually been, and that's why we started it, so that it could bring another avenue of light into your life, because your passion really is your voiceover acting.
Yeah.
And you've really worked hard at trying to make a career out of it. You're still working hard. You've had a few things.
Yeah.
But yet there are times you still slide back. So I feel like as your mom, I've seen you on a really good uphill, but I have seen also moments where I'm kind of like, I think he might be struggling a little bit. And we always talk about it. We're very open, because you have to be if you have somebody in your life that struggles.
Right.
Tossing it under the rug is the worst thing you can do.
It's the worst thing you can do. It's also the easiest thing you can do, which is why mental health is so annoying to deal with when you're in the position of your mind actively working against you. Because you want to just bury it under the rug, but it just makes it worse.
So
makes it worse.
When you say that, do you mean you? So if you're sliding again down, is it easy for you to say, I'm not going to think about this, I'm not going to talk to anybody about it?
My instincts always go to, don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. Don't bring it up. It'll just be more of a burden on their day. They've already got a lot going on.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
That's where my mind will always go to.
Right.
I won't always follow it because I know that's not good for me.
And I can tell.
But that's what my brain is screaming at me to do.
I understand. Yeah. And I want to make sure our viewers know that it wasn't easy as your parent to get you to continually talk about it. And there is a fine line as well from, I guess I'll say, a caregiver. I don't know if that's the right word.
Sure. Yeah.
But there are times when, and it's been 10 years of me learning the right way to help you handle it. There's times where you see it, you think, I think he might be struggling, but yet you will always say to yourself, should I bring it up? Because if I bring it up and he's not, I don't want to trigger him. Because mental health, what I've learned through your journey, you have triggers.
Right.
There are certain situations that will happen, that have happened, that a lot of people would say, oh gosh, just get over it. It's whatever.
Yeah.
But for someone with a mental health journey, please, if anybody is out there listening and you have somebody in your life that suffers, understand what I'm saying. Yes, they can get over it, but it is a trigger to something that could be very bad. Understanding the difference between, okay, this is a trigger. I've got to now have him talk about this so that it no longer becomes a trigger. My philosophy, maybe so-and-so should just get over it. It is unapplicable now.
Right.
It is not what I think. It is not, that doesn't matter how I would handle it.
Right.
What I've learned is that's not how you're capable of handling it, because your mind is going to have that trigger, and that trigger is going to possibly go, my life is not worth living.
Yeah. So I also think that's something very important to highlight, which is that when it comes to mental health, mental illness, it is an illness of the mind, and every mind is different. So I have my journey, I have my experiences, but they are very much my journey and my experiences. So the things that I go through that I felt may not be the same that other people with depression have gone through or have felt.
Yep.
The things that trigger me may not be the things that trigger other people. So that's can be what makes trying to help someone going through this so difficult, because it's not just about learning the general. You have to get to learn the very specifics of their experience. And that can be a hard shell to break through, because I said this during our episode where we talked more in depth about my journey, is that people with depression, from my experience, tend to be very good actors.
Mm-hmm, you did say that.
We do not want you to know that we are depressed, because our feelings stem from a lot of self-worth issues, a lot of not feeling like we're worthy of time or attention. So why would we burden you with the knowledge that we're struggling? Right. It would just make it worse. So we sweep it under the rug, even though that's what's making it worse.
It's like
it's a cycle.
Vicious circle.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
It's
exactly.
Really, and what I've learned is, as somebody that's held your hand through this process, through this journey, I guess, there are times when, you know, if I say this, is it going to trigger? If I bring it up, is it going to trigger? The worst thing that you can do, like we said, is hide it under the rug. If I feel like I'm noticing a slip, however you want to see it, maybe a little bit of a decline, I have learned through the Mental Health Association and the tips that they gave me, that is the first time I need to say, okay, what's going on, kid? I think I'm sensing something.
Right, yeah.
You and I have grown to have a very open conversation about this, no matter how difficult it may be for you. Your instinct is to hide it.
It is.
I don't want
to
burden.
Much is. Yeah.
I don't want to burden my mom because it's going to be worse. However, what I can tell you, hands down.
Well,
oh boy,
it was going to happen sooner or later. That's okay.
The outcome.
Yeah.
Of not talking about it, the outcome of what a possible decision could be, if you were to ever choose to end it all, go down that path again, that outcome is so much worse for me, your father, your brother, and Nicole than this.
Right.
Saying, no, talk about it. Okay, you need help again? Let's get it. That's what people that have those thoughts aren't clear to understand.
Yeah.
That it's a way out, so you're not burdening not only yourself with those thoughts, but others. But that outcome is the worst for us.
Yeah.
And learning to talk about it. I know, it's easy sometimes for even people in our family to say, oh, shoot, maybe we shouldn't let Austin know because it might be too difficult, or everybody wants to protect you.
Right.
But that is the worst. You need to know if there's, I don't know, whatever's going on. I don't know. Like, I'm just saying a scenario.
Sure, yeah.
Because you're with us. Like, I remember the day when you woke me up, and I remember the shock, because the hardest part about that moment in your journey, when you came and got me before you swallowed those pills, was I didn't know. And 10 years later, I'm still sitting here going, I mean, I knew he was reclusive. I knew, you always were. You were behaving no different than you did from the time you were a newborn, where you didn't want anybody to hold you.
Sure,
you were secure with your mom and your dad, and you were like, I'm good. And I'm sitting there grabbing your shirt and going, do not do this. It's difficult. So now I'm at a loss for words. Like it's such a journey.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody wants Austin to be here forever.
Right. Yeah. Now, I also think it's important to say that being understood is very important when it comes to mental health. It's also a two-way street when you're dealing with it. So you can sense when I'm not having a good day, and you'll go, hey, is something wrong? Are you feeling all right?
Yeah.
That's good. But it also works in reverse, where this was funny because this happened a couple weeks ago, where I woke up one day and I just wasn't feeling well. Like I had like a massive splitting headache.
Oh, yes, yes.
We were going to do a live that day and I was like, I don't know. But we were talking on the phone and it was just like yeah, okay, like that kind of conversation. And there was a pause, there was a silence. And in my head, I was like, I'm not good right now. She can probably tell that I'm not good right now. She's probably going to think I'm having a bad mental health day. So I need to make sure we're on the same page right now. And I was like, by the way, Mom, I'm sorry, I have a massive headache right now. So it's about making sure that we're on the same page.
We're on the phone.
Both when I am struggling, but also when I'm not struggling.
Actually, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
And you did, because I remember talking to you. I talked to you twice that day about, you head up, just so people know, you head up the inside of our real estate business.
Right.
So there's a lot of times I'm like, okay, check on this, or,
We're on the phone,
and your mom got to update you on A, B, and C.
Yeah.
And I do remember thinking, oh, he sounds a bit off. My mind hadn't gone yet to, oh gosh, is this a bad mental health day? But then when we talked the second time and I found you different, it was you, I was about to utter the words and you were like, Mom, I've got a really bad headache. Like, and I'm like, oh, okay. It will always go there because it's, I guess it's kind of like, from a parent point of view, it's a trigger for me too.
Right, exactly.
Shoot, okay, do I got to do a check-in right now?
Yeah, because listen, I have depression, I have social anxiety, I have these things that I struggle with, but my struggle influences you. You had to learn a lot in order to be able to understand how to deal with this, how to help me. So I know there's always a part of you that's always thinking in the back of your mind, is he okay? And I don't ever want to give you a mistaken interpretation of where my head is at.
Well, you know what, I appreciate that. And I guess that's where, when we've been on our lives and some people are saying, oh my goodness, I love how close this family is, with this particular journey, and I'm gonna put this into the parental role, as we kind of talked about ending our last podcast.
Yeah.
It will always be I'll say this, in my opinion only, it will always be a parent's job to keep their child here.
Right.
I will never shrug that role off. If you at that time were married and had 10 children and you had reached out to me, nothing would be different. Hopefully your wife would be okay with it, but I will never shrug that off.
Right.
I will never take lightly that I am always going to be my children's biggest supporter. And especially with this journey, I just don't think I could ever not ask or shrug it under.
Right. Yeah.
Because I know, and I will never forget, and I'm going to say this with as much emphasis because I was the one there that night. I will never forget you running into my room and saying the words that you were about to end it. I will never forget how close I came to being like what other parents are going through, where it could have been too late.
Mm-hmm.
I will never forget that.
Right.
And I think that as a parent, as much as sometimes if you don't understand because you've never had those thoughts, it's not about us. It is always about our children first.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I will always be here. I will always be here, kid.
Right. Now,
when I'm in the nursing home,
yeah, fair enough.
You can still come wheel yourself to my room. And,
I'll have to return the favor a little bit when those days come. I did, though, want to bring the topic back around to that because that is my story in a nutshell. Again, we go more in depth with it in our other episode. But I wanted to bring this back around to others because, like we said at the beginning of this episode, we're getting to a time of year, not that everyone doesn't already struggle with mental health issues on their own, but you're going to be seeing a lot of people really struggling now that we're getting into the winter months. Seasonal depression, it's very much a thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people go through tough times around the Christmas time. It's just a fact. So I sort of wanted to bring this around to ways that you can better understand people going through this, ways that maybe you can help in your own little ways. Because I think the important thing for people to understand about, well, me personally, speaking with my own personal experience, people with depression is that it's something we don't need you to necessarily be thinking of how to solve all of our problems or how to fix everything that's going wrong. We just need to be heard and understood. So I think is the most important thing, is to just be understanding above all else.
So let's give our viewers a scenario.
Okay.
Because you know me, when I teach and when I coach, I think people understand better if they're given a case scenario.
Okay.
So you have somebody that in your life that maybe gets blue, whether or not it's diagnosed depression or not. A lot of people are undiagnosed.
Sure.
Let's be real.
Yeah,
but it
absolutely
is,
true.
But it is evident that they have very high highs and very low lows for whatever their reasons. You're noticing your friend is not talking as often, or, you know, you're pulling teeth to get stuff. You're noticing something is wrong.
Yeah.
Is the best thing to do is to say, hey, Jimmy, I'm your buddy. I can see something's wrong. I need you to talk to me.
I would say you're almost correct.
Okay.
I think reaching out is something you should absolutely do. I think it starts at, hey, Jimmy, we haven't chatted in a bit. I just want to let you know you're my buddy. I care a lot about you. I hope things are going well. I'm always there for you.
So you don't think you should acknowledge that you can sense something's wrong?
I think it should start with just letting them know how much you appreciate them.
Okay, that's fair.
I think that's the starting point. I think that should hopefully, in a perfect scenario, evolve into a conversation.
All right.
I think you, from there, this is the starting point.
Okay, so let me throw this back to you.
Okay.
If somebody said that to you when you were in your darkest moment, like you're having you're really on a decline.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm not convinced that would be enough to get you to say, I really appreciate that. Here's what I'm going through.
Mm-hmm.
So would you recommend, let's say Jimmy, I'll be Jimmy.
Sure.
You say that to me. I'm hearing from you. I'm assuming, Austin, maybe you and I haven't talked for a couple of months. Let's just say that.
Let's say, sure, yeah.
So I'm Jimmy. I'm really blue. I don't want to talk to anybody.
Right.
And now this guy that I haven't talked to, is my friend in a while, is saying this. I'm gonna say thanks.
Right. So from that point, I would probably reach out to someone else who knows him
You would, eh?
and
Okay.
ask, hey, have you noticed anything with Jimmy lately?
Yep.
If they've heard from him or not. See if you can get
Okay.
some info. Again, try not to be like super intrusive about it because you don't want to feel like you're forcing yourself on them or intruding on their personal space. But
Would you not take that opportunity to address the thanks with Jimmy directly?
I would say to him,
Okay.
nope, no problem. Just I'm here for you, man. Let me know if you need anything.
Okay.
But I would at that point start trying to look for more info, see if there's others that are sensing the same thing that I am.
Mm-hmm.
The gut feeling is a very strong feeling, and it's right way more often than it isn't.
Your gut feeling.
Gut
somebody-
feelings in general.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think if you're feeling that he is pulling away, then you start to think, okay, let's see if I can get info out of people that he's close to, if anyone's feeling for it, because maybe we do need to like implement a plan to get him some help and have like a serious conversation. I don't think you should start with the serious conversation. My hope is for that to come naturally. But if it needs to come to that, then it needs to come to that.
I understand what you're saying. I think what I'm hearing is if you sense somebody's going through or sliding down a mental illness path, take the time to tell them that you care about them.
Yes.
Be there, ask. Don't be afraid to say, I'm noticing that you're not good.
Mm-hmm.
Can I help you? I think, Austin, those are very important words as well.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not willing after that to share whatever their journey is, don't brush it under the rug. Start talking to other people to see if maybe somebody else needs to help.
The reason why I say it should start with just the kind words is if you remember what I said about the feelings of being a burden.
Yeah.
If you start with, hey, is something wrong?
Yeah.
That could risk them.
It could trigger them to come.
Putting their back against the wall and going,
right.
Oh, great. Now they notice that I'm not good and I'm being even more of a burden.
Yeah.
So it should start.
That makes sense.
It should start at the very beginning, the very first step with positive reinforcement.
Right.
Just letting them know that they matter to you.
Right. Yeah.
It should start with that and then you work from there. I have to repeat, every single situation's different. This isn't a be-all, end-all guide because everyone's brain is different. So you have to adjust as needed on the fly. It's unfortunate, but that's just how it works. What I will say is, let's do this scenario again. I'm Jimmy. Assume all facets of me are exactly the same, except I'm some random dude you know named Jimmy. I'm going through a bad day or a mental health struggle for a while. And you come up to me and you go, hey, I think you're having a bad day. Maybe you should just go and play video games. I know you like them. Is that a good thing to do you think?
I don't.
And why is that?
Well, first of all, I don't think video games are ever good, but
we have very different thoughts on that. But anyway,
I feel like, but I'm learning. I'm learning from you. So I feel like from somebody that kind of has been a caregiver most of their lives, and a lot of people turn to me and talk to me. I feel like I would ask, is there anything I can do to help you?
Sure.
I don't think I would direct them to go continue to be in their own headspace and watch video games. That's my natural reaction to that.
Fair enough. I think the point I'm trying to get at, though, is that oftentimes people have this misreading of what depression is.
Okay.
People associate it with sadness, with just feeling like really bad, really sad, crying, that sort of thing. Is there elements of that? Yes. For what I've experienced from both myself And everyone I've talked to that has depression, we tend to clump together for some reason. It's not so much sadness, but apathy. It's feeling nothing. It's feeling emptiness in your life, which eventually turns into self-loathing. So when someone sees that you're having a problem and their response is, do something you like.
Okay, I understand.
One of the core symptoms of depression is the things that you like, you don't get enjoyment out of anymore. When I was in college, I would still play video games, but I felt nothing while I was, and it just made me start feeling worse.
Okay, so that's a wrong thing to say.
Is
that the point that you're... Okay.
That's the point I'm trying to make, is that just do something that you like is... I said this earlier.
You did.
A Band-Aid on an open heart surgery.
You did. And that was a really powerful point, because you grew up in an era where video games was very present.
The rise of the digital age,
and I do understand anybody in their 20s and 30s, like you and your brother, and you're 30, your brother's turning 33. It's still a big thing in your lives.
Sure.
But I also found it very interesting in that episode when you said to me, even when I'm in my mental health journey, when it's not good, I don't even care about the video games. They mean nothing to me. And that was a startling...
Oh, snap.
What? What? Yeah.
So I guess...
So when you turn things into real life in this journey, I think it resonates, because people now are attaching that and seeing, what? Oh my God, your mind doesn't even allow you this.
Yeah. So I guess the best way I could
wrap it up
is to, sort of to give this example back to you would be if you were going through a serious mental health struggle at some point where you were feeling really depressed. I know that you used to really like reading, and you still have like lots of books. It'd be like if you said, hey, Austin, I just want you to know I'm having a really blue day. And I said, well, read a book.
Yeah.
Problem solved, right? No.
But see, that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
I think that people assume that's problem solved.
Exactly.
And that goes right back to what I was saying. How you feel you would deal with something is ridiculous to assume that somebody with this mental health issues or journeys, that this is a solution.
Yeah.
If you have a family member, if you have somebody that's close to you, a friend, whoever it is, it becomes your responsibility to learn what the best things are, because your solution is ridiculous to them.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's really important. But, we are kind of maxing out our time here.
Yeah. So
I am so proud.
Yeah.
So proud of you sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to give some closing thoughts. I promise, Producer Dan, I won't take too long. The best advice I can give for helping people that are dealing with depression is that it's a two-way street. So if you're trying to help someone who's depressed, it begins with reaching out and telling them that their existence matters, that you have been a positive influence on their life, and that you are glad to have them there. And if you have depression, it is important to understand that your brain is probably giving you some very bad advice about how you should respond to other people.
Yeah.
But you need to be able to say to someone, anyone, it could be a parent, it could be a friend, it could be a coworker, it could be a therapist. Tell someone what you're feeling so that you can get on the right path. It's not curable. You'll probably have to live with it for the rest of your life. I know I'll have to live with what I have for the rest of my life. But those are the small but important things in order to be sure that in spite of all of that, you can live a happy life and a long life. Now everyone in the background watching can stand up and give me their round of applause.
I feel like he said it best. I feel like he said it best. So just as we're going to shut down this episode, you've made me tear up. Your existence matters. I love you so much, my son.
Well, I love you too.
Proud is you are the backbone of this family. And don't ever forget it. I'm proud of you. Proud of what you're doing to help others. I think that we're going to continue to use this podcast as a safe place for people to leave their comments, as we did in our first episode when we talked about this.
Yeah.
If you need help, leave a comment. We will find a help center. We will post the link for you. This will always be a safe and peaceful channel.
Absolutely.
We are, as much as our sign-off always says, we're laughing through life with a mom and her son, we promise to be extremely transparent. We are bringing you the good, the bad, the ugly. This isn't an easy thing for any of us to talk about. I know it's not easy for you, but we're doing this in hopes that somebody out there will go, I resonate, and I am so proud of you. So you know what? We're not even going to say our normal YouTube stuff because we're going to end on love, and I'm so glad that you're still with us.
Oh, well, I'm glad that I'm here too.
Yeah.
And I'll say this to everyone who's maybe struggling with this, who has these issues but hasn't talked about them. The first time you talk about them is going to be the hardest time that you talk about them. But each time you talk about them, it will get easier. And I struggled with a long time about telling my story because I told you about it. I told, obviously, my dad and my brother about it. But I told my therapist, but I did not want to tell anyone else about it. I did not want you guys to tell anyone else about it.
No.
But I had my moment of reflection where I was just like, I can't be afraid of this anymore. Because that's what it was. I was afraid of it. I was afraid of looking back on that part of my life.
Maybe reliving it to a degree.
Yeah, because those were objectively the worst days of my life.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to think about them, but it also gave that time power over me. And by channeling it into being able to talk about it and maybe help others understand and maybe just bring some more knowledge to others, it's lost its power over me. It's still a part of my life and it always will be, but now I'm not controlled by it.
I love those words. So I'm going to let you say our sign off because I feel like this is exactly what we're doing.
Yeah. So thanks to everyone who tuned in. Again, this has been a heavy episode, but we always want to bring it back to a smile. So remember, guys, you ever need help, reach out. Whether we support you or someone you know supports you, find the support that you need and you deserve. And remember, hey, life's crazy.
Yeah.
We can't change that, but we can talk about it.
And we do.
Take care, everybody.
Peace out.